Hi, I'm Jenny Miller of Let's Get Sewing. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Are you ready to take the fear and frustration out of your sewing experience and finally get your talents out and in the open? Then you are in the right place. Just be sure to click the subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my tutorials. And now, let's get sewing. Today we're going to talk about matching plaids and stripes in your sewing, and that may seem like a really minor detail, but when the stripes aren't quite matched up and the eye is trying to compete for that and focus in on that, it detracts from the overall look of your project. And you want a really finished and professional look to your project. So this simple trick that I'm going to show you is going to help you to do that. You'll see I wore this blouse today because it has stripes which are matched, carrying all the way around to the back of the blouse. I also have this t-shirt here in which I did the same thing, matching these stripes so that they carry around to the back, just giving it a little bit more completed look. But what happens when those seams come together in the center front or center back of the garment? We still want that continuation of the lines because that's kind of the first thing people see when they look at us. And so using this trick that I'm going to show you will help you to match up any plaid or stripe when you're sewing and give your garment a better appearance. My demonstration today is going to be in half scale. But you would just do everything exactly the same if you were doing a full scale pattern for yourself. So typically when you're cutting out garments, you cut them out with your fabric folded over. I've had my folded edge here and my selvage edge over here. Now we need to make sure that the plaid is straight the whole way across the front or the back. We don't want it to go at a diagonal across the garment. And so what I do is when I lay it out like this on the fold, then I carefully match up my plaid or my stripe, whatever I'm working with, on the selvage edge of the fabric. So then I know that these are the same the whole way across to the fold, which will be the center of this particular piece. So in this case, this is my garment back. It is cut on the fold. And so I place it on the fold where I need it, and now I know that I'm on grain because this is folded straight with the plaid. So then I pin my pattern piece in place. I always start by pinning along the fold so that I'm sure that the piece stays on grain, and then go along the other sides of the pattern. Because this is such a small piece, I'm only using a few pins here. And now I have my pattern piece placed. This will be where it will be cut out. But I'm going to be attaching another piece to it. So I need the plaids to match up in that piece. And so I just lay that piece right here with my side seams matching. And then I need some kind of tool, pencil or pen, to put my marks on this piece of the pattern. Now, I like to use a heat erasable pen because then when I'm done with this project, I use my iron to erase the marks and I have a good pattern piece to use again. So I'm looking through here at what my plaid lines are. And I'm not so much concerned about the plaids going this direction. It's this line that I want to be continuous from the back of the garment to the front. And so I'm just going to draw that in here. So we have the little pink line here. We have a wider line here. And here's the edge of this more obvious line in the plaid. Then I can come up here and find some of the other edges so that they're all drawn in now. So now when I mark this, I'm going to color this in. That's my pink one. This is my lighter pink. And then I can match these up to the plaid in just a minute, and you'll see what all of that means. Okay, so now this piece does not get cut on the fold. If it did, I would need to come somewhere down here on the fold and line up my pieces. And that's why the pattern will often tell you to get more fabric to allow for a plaid, because I couldn't butt this piece right up against that one. My plaids would not be the same. I would have to come all the way down here to match them up again. And so that's why you need extra fabric when matching plaids. But since this piece can be cut not on the fold, I'm going to place it right over here. I can still come in closer to conserve a little bit of fabric. And when I lay it here now, my skinny pink stripe matches, my lighter pink stripe matches, and all of my lines are matching up with the plaid. But you'll see here that I'm not quite on grain. So this will take just a little bit of tweaking now. Now my piece is on grain, and I may need to adjust that just a little bit. So now I have my plaids matching here. I have them matching out here, and I know because I folded this carefully on the plaid that when I have these two pieces, they will match up at this seam as well. And so now I can just pin this one down. And as I was pinning, I was careful to make sure that I didn't shift the pattern off from the plaid markings here. So now I'm ready to cut this out just like normal. So of course, once you've cut out all of your pattern, then you would make sure you transfer any notches and markings from the pattern. You don't obviously have to transfer your plaid symbols here, but I'm going to go ahead and remove the pattern. Okay, now I have my pattern all cut out. This was my back piece that was cut on the fold. This is my front piece. And I can set my pattern aside now. If we were to sew this into a shirt, we would sew right sides together. And so we would match it up at the side seams. And you can see here when my side seams match up, my plaids are now matching up. So I am going to carefully do that. And when I am sewing with plaids and stripes, I use a lot of pins to keep everything matched up where it needs to be. And so I'm going to put more pins than I typically would. I'm going to pretty much put them at every point that I also drew on with my pen, that I drew onto the pattern, because those are the key points in the plaid or stripe pattern that you're working with. And so now each of those spots will be nicely pinned together when I go to the sewing machine, and we'll keep them together. And if you have to, you can shift the fabric back and forth to make sure that those match up. If worse comes to absolute worst, you might have like, a 1/16 of an inch that just needs to be eased in there. That shouldn't be a problem. If you have to ease it to the point that you're getting puckers, then you may need to rethink your plaid and go back and take a look at where you're matching up. So now I'm going to sew my seams here. When I am stitching these, I always use my dual feed on my FOF machine. I think some Bernina machines have it too. If you have a walking foot, that would also be preferred, because when you use those, you feed both layers of fabric through together and you're less likely to get any scooting. But if you don't have either one of those available, just be sure to sew right up to your pin before you remove it from the fabric so that nothing can shift from the feed dogs. I hope you found this information helpful. It really is a small detail that makes a big difference in the outcome of your sewing project. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments and I will get back to you and see how I can help you out with your project. And now, let's get sewing.